Hi, this is Ann with Graphic Design How To, and today I'm going to show you how to draw 4 more easy things in Adobe Illustrator. And this is actually an excerpt from my newest Skillshare class, How to Draw 10 More Easy Things in Adobe Illustrator. And if you're a member at Skillshare, you can take that class for free, and of course all my other classes too. If you're not a member over there will be a comment below this video that is a 1-month free trial to Skillshare, or you can just watch the 4 that I show you in this video. Now I also have another YouTube video of how to draw 4 easy things, and that video will be linked right up here at the top of your screen. Now you'll probably notice in this video that I kind of skip around from design to design, so I'll say, oh, next for number 7 we're going to draw this, and actually it'll be number 4. And that's because these are taken straight out of that other video, the course on Skillshare. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. Also, this class is for complete beginners, so if you've used Illustrator for a while, it might be a little on the easy side. Alright, let's get started. We'll create each simple shape, and then I'll show you a few ways to add interest, because these simple shapes can kind of sometimes look a little plain or boring without something a little extra. The first thing we're going to create is a cloud, so I'm going to hit L on my keyboard. L will get me to the ellipse tool, which is right over here. It's underneath the rectangle tool actually. And now I'm going to hold Shift and click and drag to create a circle. And then I'll hit D on my keyboard to get a white fill and black outline. And the reason I'm doing that is because sometimes you won't have a fill or a stroke, so you might not see it at all. So I wanted to make sure you had the same fill and stroke that I do. And now I'm going to hit V to get on my selection tool right up here. I'm going to click and drag holding Option or Alt, and that'll make a copy. So when I release, I'll have 2 of them. And I'm going to make a few different circles to form my cloud shape. I like the ones at the bottom of the cloud shape to be smaller. So to make it smaller, I'm going to get right on a corner like this. Now if you're not seeing this bounding box, you can go to View, Show Bounding Box. Mine says Hide because it's already turned on, but yours will be right here too. Then we want to get right on the edge, hold Shift and Option or Alt, and just drag in. Shift will resize proportionally, and Option or Alt will resize from the center. So I'm going to make it a little smaller still. I'm just holding Shift this time. Now I'll click on this one and hold Option or Alt to bring it over here. And then I'll grab this one. And this is all with my selection tool up here. Hold Option or Alt to make a copy over here. And then maybe one more of these bigger ones. And I'll fill in the spaces with some bigger circles. And then on top, I want to make a bigger circle. So I'm going to hold Shift and Option or Alt and just make it about like that. Maybe I'll pull it over here, and I'll hold Option or Alt to make this last one. Okay, so we have a bunch of circles that form our cloud shape. Maybe I'll move this up a little bit. I'm going to select everything by just drawing a box around it with my selection tool. Now we're going to combine these to form one piece instead of all the circles, but I think it's a good idea to keep your original drawings off to the side. So I'm going to hold Option or Alt, and I'm going to click and drag to make a copy over here off of the artboard. It's nice to keep your original pieces, and that way if you want to change something, it's easy to do. Once we combine these, they won't be easy to change anymore. Okay, so I'm going to select all of these, and now I'm going to hit Shift M on my keyboard. Shift M is going to bring us to the Shape Builder tool, and you can see a little video of how it works. And it's funny that they drew a cloud too. Now the way this tool works, you can click and drag across all the pieces that you want to connect. But I'm going to show you another way because we have so many pieces that might take a while. So I'm going to hold Shift and just draw a box around this, and it will combine all of them. Alright, so I'm going to click on my cloud, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger by holding Shift and dragging a corner. And I'm just going to kind of center it up in the space. Then I'm going to come over here to my swatches, and I'm going to choose the very light blue, kind of grayish color. We'll click on that one. And then I'll hit X to bring my stroke to the front. This kind of activates it. And I'm going to hit the question mark or slash to get rid of the stroke. So if we click off to the side, you can see our cloud shape. Now to add some interest to this, I'm going to add a little shadow right underneath it. So to do that, I'm going to make 2 copies and put them right on top. Then we'll kind of cut away part of it, and you'll be left with a shadow. So let's click our cloud, I'll copy with Command C or Control C, paste in front with Command F or Control F, and then paste in front again, Command F or Control F. So you have 3 copies and they're right on top of each other. I'm going to just click this one and offset it a little bit. I'll hit E on my keyboard to get my free transform, which is this right over here. And I'm just going to kind of offset this. If we get right on the centerpiece and then hold Option or Alt, we get kind of an offset that can be interesting. Okay, and let's just color this something different. So I'll hit X to get my fill in front over here. And then I'm just going to make it yellow so we can see what we're doing. Now I'm going to hit L on my keyboard and draw a little piece to kind of fill out this shape over here. So I'll click and drag. I'm holding Shift. Now I'll select both pieces by holding Shift and clicking both. I'll get back on my Shape Builder tool over here and I'm going to connect those pieces by just dragging across both. Now I'll hit V to get my selection tool back up. So I'll move this around until I have a solid shape underneath. It's okay if it crosses over, I just think it looks a little nicer if it doesn't. So now I want to get just this shape for the shadow. So I'm going to click the yellow, I'll hold Shift and I'll click the next piece down. We still have the full cloud underneath these 2 pieces. And then I'm going to use that same Shape Builder tool, so Shift M on your keyboard. And then I'm going to delete parts of it by holding Option or Alt and just dragging through the parts I don't want. So now I'm left with this little shape under here. Alright, so now we have our full cloud shape and we have a shadow. So let's make the shadow a little darker color. I'll hit V on my keyboard and select just that piece, and then I'm going to come over here and choose the light blue. And now we have a little gray cloud that has a little bit of interest because of the shadow. Okay, so let's save our file. I'm going to hit Shift Command S, that's Shift Control S on a PC, and I'm going to create a new folder for our designs to keep them nice and organized. So I'll come down here to New Folder. On a PC, you can just hit Shift Control N. That should make a new folder right here in this window. And I'm putting this on my desktop. On a Mac, that's Shift Command N if you want to do it that way. And I'm just going to call my folder 10 Easy Things. We'll create it. And I'll also call the file 10 Easy Things. Now your format is going to be Adobe Illustrator, and you don't need to change this, so just leave it as AI. We'll save. And all of these things are okay, so I'll say OK. Next I'll hit my space bar to click and drag over to the next artboard. And now we're going to draw a sun. So to do this, I'm going to hit L on my keyboard. That'll give me the ellipse tool. And I'll just click and drag a circle right in the middle of my artboard. And I'm holding Shift to get a perfect circle. I'll hit V and I'll move it up to just kind of center it. And of course, I want this to be a yellow color, so I'll come over here and choose yellow from my color palette. Now for the sun rays, I'm going to go ahead and make a stroke. So I'm going to click on the stroke in my appearance right down here. As I said before, all of those are available right up here under Window. And I'm going to click on the stroke part right here. And my stroke, I want it to be orange. I'll click that, and then I'll come down here and increase the stroke. I'm going to make it 14. Now I'll come up here to my stroke panel, and I'm going to make some changes so this looks like sun rays. So I'm going to double click the word to get the most options. You can just keep double clicking the word stroke, and you'll eventually end up with this. I want to make it a dashed line. So you can see that we're starting to have some sun rays now, which is pretty awesome. We can change the dash and gap to get a different look. So if we want them really spread out, we can increase that dash. If we want them close together, we can decrease it. We can also have the dash stay the same, but then have the gap increase or decrease. And I'm highlighting this and using my up and down arrow keys, or holding Shift and using my up and down to make it jump even further. I think I'm going to keep it at 11 and 13. And I want my rays to be a little bit longer, so I'm going to do the same thing, highlight this area in the stroke weight, and then hold Shift and using my up and down arrow keys to make those rays a lot longer. Now, as you can see, half of the stroke is coming inside our sun, and we don't want that. So I'm going to click on my appearance. I'm going to move this over a little bit, and I'm going to come over here to the blank area of the stroke and click and drag it so it goes underneath that fill. And so now that fill area is in front of the orange strokes and it's covering it up. And if we want to change our stroke, we can just get back in here, go to our stroke, and increase it even more if we want to, change our dash and gap. We can always change this as long as we leave it unexpanded. Now I want to show you something. If you hit Command Y or Control Y on your keyboard, you still have just a circle. You can't see those rays anymore. Let's hit Command Y or Control Y to get back. If you wanted to actually modify and maybe make this one longer, you would need to expand. So you go up here to Object, Expand Appearance. And let's just do that. I'm going to undo here in a second to show you what it does. What's happened is it split those two pieces apart. Now if we go ahead and expand one more time, and we do the fill and the stroke, you can see now we are able to actually modify those little pieces separately. I'm just going to undo all that. I just wanted to show you that because that is an option. But if you decide to do that, go ahead and make a copy off to the side. That way you still have your stroke settings and it's easy to change. Okay, now I'm going to add a little shadow to this too, in a similar way that we did this one. So I'm going to make 2 more copies of this circle, and then I'll cut part of it out. So I'm going to copy, I'll click off over here, and then I'll paste in front with Command F or Control F. Now it doesn't really matter that we have the stroke on here, but I definitely don't need it. So I'm going to click and drag that to the trash. It's not going to change our appearance because the one underneath still has it. But now I just have a circle with yellow inside. And I'm going to copy that and paste in front again. So now we have 3 copies, 2 that are yellow circles and 1 in the very back that has a yellow circle with this stroke on it. Okay, so I'm just going to grab that yellow circle with my selection tool, the top one. I'll change the color so you can see what's going on. I'll hit X to get my fill in front, and I'll change it to this green color. I'm going to hold Shift and select the one just underneath it, and then I'll hit Shift M to get my shape builder back right over here. And I'm going to hold Option or Alt and just dragging through the parts I don't want. So now I'm left with this little piece. I'll hit V to select it, and then I'm going to come over here and choose the orange color. So this added just a little more depth to our sun. It made it look a little bit more interesting. And just then I hit Command minus or Control minus to zoom out. All right, let's move on to the third panel. I'll hit Z and just draw a box around that one. And then I'll use my spacebar to kind of center it up on my screen. The 5th thing we're going to draw is a ladybug. So to do this, I'm going to hit L on my keyboard to get me to the ellipse tool right over here. And this time I'm going to click and drag an oval, so I don't need to hold Shift. That looks about right. And I want my color to be the lighter red, so I'll click that one. And now I'm going to copy and paste in front with Command F or Control F. And then I'm going to hold Shift and Option or Shift and Alt to make the circle smaller. And I'm going to use this color over here, which is not quite black, but it's close. And then I'll get on my selection tool, and I'm going to hold Shift to move this along the same plane. I'm going to put it right about here. And then I'm going to send to back with Shift, Command, and left bracket. And I think I'm going to click right down here on this handle and just bring this up a little bit. Maybe we'll make it a little bit bigger too. And I'm using my arrow keys to kind of nudge this up. So now we have the ladybug's head and the ladybug's body. Now I'm going to draw an antenna and some legs over on this side, and we'll just duplicate those and put those over here on the other side and just reflect them. So I'm going to hit P on my keyboard to get my pen tool, and I'm going to start right about here, click once, and then come up here and then click and drag. There we go. Now I want this to be a stroke instead of a fill, so I'll hit Shift X, which will switch my stroke and fill. I'm going to increase my weight on that stroke, and that looks pretty good. And now I'll round the cap in the corner. I'm going to get back on my selection tool, and then I'm going to use this same shape to make the legs. So I'm going to hit V to get back on my selection tool, and I'll hold Option or Alt and just click and drag this to make a copy. Now I'll hit R on my keyboard to get to my rotate tool. I'm just going to rotate this around like this. I'll hit V and select it and move it down a little bit and rotate it a little more. Now I'm back on my V tool. I'm going to hold Option or Alt, add another leg here, and this time I want to set my anchor point right here. And then I'll just move that up like that. And then for the last one, I'll do the same thing, and I'll hit R to get it to rotate the opposite way. I'll hit V to get back on my selection tool, and I'm going to place that right there. Now I'll select these two shapes with my selection tool, and I'm going to bring those to the front, which is Shift Command and right bracket, or Shift Control right bracket on a PC. You can also go to Object, Arrange, and Bring to Front right here. Now I want to select only the legs and the antennas. So to do that, I'm going to draw a box around everything with my selection tool. And then I'll hold Shift, and I'm going to draw a box over here that just touches these two pieces, and that will deselect those. So now I have just the pieces I need. I'm going to copy, Command C or Control C, paste in front with Command F or Control F, hit O to get my reflect tool. If I get down here at the center, then you should be able to see a little anchor point. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to hold Alt or Option, and I'll click down there to set the anchor point. I'll do a vertical reflect, and with preview turned on, you can see what will happen. Now that time I made a copy before doing this, so I don't want to hit copy this time. I just want to hit OK. I hit V to get back on my selection tool, and now I'm going to select everything and just move it down to kind of center it in the space. Now I want this circle to look like it has a little split right here. So I'm going to just draw a line that goes from here to here. I'll do that with my pen tool, so I'll hit P on my keyboard. I'm going to start a little bit above the middle, click, and then I'm going to go a little bit past the circle, holding Shift, and click again. Now make sure you don't click and drag, because if you do, you're going to get something like this, and you don't want that. So I'll undo, and I'll hold Shift and just click once. Now I've got a fill on this, but you can't even see it because there's nothing there to fill. So I'm going to hit Shift X to switch to a stroke only. Right now it's red. I'm going to hit X to get my stroke to the front, and then choose the black. And I'll hit Shift W to get my width tool. I'll get right on this anchor point, and then I'm going to hold Shift and pull it out right down here. Now I'll hit V to get back on my selection tool. I want the bottom of this to be rounded to match that circle. I'm going to use this circle, or actually a copy of it, to make a mask that will enclose this shape. And I'll show you what I mean. So I'll copy this with Command C or Control C. I'm going to click off, and I'll paste in front with Command F or Control F. I'm going to change the color of this so you can see what's going on. So I'll hit X to get the fill in front, and then make it yellow. Now this is going to be my mask, and it's going to completely disappear once I mask it with this shape. So when we use a mask, we want the mask part to be on top, and then you want whatever you're masking inside that to be below. And masks can be a little bit tricky. They're one of the harder things to kind of understand in Adobe Illustrator, in my opinion. So just bear with me. So we'll click that, I'll hold Shift, and I'll click right in the middle of that other piece. And then I'm going to go to Object, Clipping Mask, and Make. You can also hit Command 7 or Control 7. So this is our desired result. This piece is being contained by this circle. Now it actually does go outside that circle, but you can't see it, and it cuts it off right here. And that's a good thing. I'm going to Command minus to zoom out. And now the last step on our Ladybug is just to add some polka dots. So I'll hit L on my keyboard. Now I have a stroke only, so I want to switch that to a fill with Shift X. And now I'm just going to hold Shift and draw one little polka dot. I'll zoom in with my Z tool, and then I'm going to hold Option or Alt and just make some copies of this circle. Okay, now let's add a little shadow to him. I'm going to get on my selection tool. Now we're not selecting the mask. The mask has no fill or stroke, but if you were to select right on the edge, you probably would have the mask selected right now, and you can tell that right over here. If you have it selected, go ahead and just click right on the red area, and that'll make sure you select just that red circle behind the mask. Okay, so I'm going to copy this, I'm going to click off, and then I'll paste in front with Command F or Control F. I'm going to hold Option or Alt, and I'll just make a copy. I'm going to make this a different color so you can see what's going on. And I'll select both pieces with my selection tool, and then I'll hit Shift M, which is my shape builder. I'll hold Option or Alt and drag across those two pieces. So now we have a little shadow area for our Ladybug. And I'm going to make this the darker red. Now you'll notice this is covering up some of the things we actually want to see under there. So the way to fix this is with an opacity blending mode. So if we click on the word opacity up here in the control panel, we can come over here to normal, these are your blending modes, and choose multiply. When you use one of these blending modes, it reacts with whatever's underneath. So it can create some really neat effects. Now this is looking a little too dark now, so I'm going to knock the opacity of that shadow down to 70. Alright, I think that looks really nice, and it makes them look a little 3D too. For number 7, we're going to draw a tulip. So to make the top part, I'm going to get on my pen tool. I'll hit P on my keyboard, and I'll click once, and I'll come up here and just kind of start clicking and dragging. And that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to get my width tool by hitting Shift W on my keyboard. It's right over here. And then I'm just going to click and drag out a petal. Now I want these to come to a point, so I'm going to zoom in and I'll click on this part out here and bring it all the way in. And same with down here. Now this actually has rounded points because my stroke has a round cap and join. And I like the way that looks, but if you don't like it, you can change it to cap and corner, which will make them more sharp. Okay, now I want this part of the petal to be a little wider on this side, but not on this side. So I need to get right on that anchor point and then come out here like this, hold Option or Alt, and bring just this side over. Okay, and this is looking pretty nice. I want it to be the lighter red though, so I'll click that. Okay, now I'm going to expand this because right now all we really have is just a line. I'm hitting Command Y or Control Y to see the preview mode. So I'll come up here to Object, Expand Appearance. And now that shape has been expanded and we can manipulate it to look a little more like a tulip. So I'm going to hit A on my keyboard. I'm going to get right down here. And there are kind of too many points down here. I don't think we need this many. So I'm going to hit Shift S and I'm going to kind of just smooth those out. Shift S is your smooth tool and you can just go along the line over and over until it smooths it out. So now I'll get back on my A tool, the direct selection. I'll click on that bottom point and I'm going to grab that handle and just move it out like that. Maybe move this one down a little bit. Changing the handles is pretty tricky at first, but you'll get the hang of it the more often you do it. Okay, I'm going to click off and then I'll use my selection tool. I'm just going to get right outside the corner and rotate this. That's another way to rotate. So we've got the first petal of our flower. Now I'm going to copy and reflect it over here. So I'm going to hit O on my keyboard. I'll hold Option or Alt and click right down here on this point. We'll do a vertical reflect and then copy. I think I'm just going to rotate this one with the R tool. I've got my anchor set here by clicking once and then I'll just pull that piece up over here. Then I'll select both with my selection tool, the V tool. I'll get outside and rotate them a little bit like this. And then I also want a little flower petal back here. So I'm going to hit P on my keyboard. I'll start right about here. And I'm going to hold Shift and just click again down here. I'm going to change my fill to a stroke. And then I'm going to get my width tool with Shift W, this one right over here. And since we don't have an anchor point in the middle, I'm going to go ahead and just click and drag to make one. I'll get back on my selection tool and I'm going to send this to back with Shift Command left bracket. That's Shift Control left bracket on a PC. I'm going to change this stroke to a darker red. And I'll use my arrow keys to move it over to the center. I'll zoom out with Command minus or Control minus. I'm going to select it and just kind of center it up in the area. And now I'm going to make the stem. I'm going to click P on my keyboard. I'm going to start from about right here, click once, and then just click and drag, and then click once down here. I'll hit Shift X to get a stroke instead of a fill. I'm going to increase the weight to about 12 and I'll make the stem green. This is a little too bent, so I'm going to hit A, click on that anchor point and then just take a handle and kind of straighten it up. We can also use the smooth tool, Shift S, to go over that to get something a little more natural looking. Alright, now I'm going to take this stem and send it to the back with Shift Command left bracket or Shift Control left bracket on a PC. And now it's time to make the leaves. I'm actually going to use my stem to create my leaves. So I'm going to copy, paste in front with Command F or Control F, and then hit R on my keyboard, come down here to set my anchor point, and I'm just going to put that over here like this. Then I'll hit Shift W to get my width tool. I'm going to click right in the middle and pull that out. I'll come in here close with my Z tool, then I'll hit Shift W and get on that tool again and pull these in. Now I don't want my other leaf to look exactly like this one, so I'm going to go ahead and just draw a leaf over here. So I'll hit P on my keyboard, I'll click once, and then I'll click again, and I'm going to end down here and click and drag. I'm going to hit Shift S to get on my smooth tool and smooth this out a little bit. I'll hit Shift W to get on my width tool. I'm going to start at this anchor point and pull this out. I'll make sure to zoom in and pull these in. Command minus to zoom out. Then I'll hit A to select my point and just make sure these are kind of lined up down here. Okay, I'm going to zoom out with Command minus or Control minus. Okay, now to add some interest to this, I'm going to add another copy of this leaf right on top of it and then make a little line right down the middle of it. So I'll copy it and I'll paste in front, and I'm going to make a new green color, a darker green. So I'll get on that green and choose New. I'll hold Option and Command or Alt and Control on a PC and make a dark tonal and say OK. Now I'll use my width tool, Shift W, to pull these in, maybe even a little more. And then I'll do the same over here. Copy, paste in front, change to the darker green, and then Shift W to get the width tool and pull these in. Alright, this is looking pretty nice. Now I want to create a shadow to kind of differentiate these two petals. So I'm going to click on this one, I'll copy, and I'll paste in front. And then I'm going to paste in front again, so I'll have 3 copies on top of there. And then I'm going to move it over a little bit. I'm going to change the color of this one. Now it's kind of hard to tell what's going on, but I want to make a line right in here to kind of differentiate this one from that one. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to go ahead and select these two and hide them with Command 3 or Control 3. So now I just have these two shapes to work with. It's just a little easier to work with. Now I want this piece to line up pretty well with this one, so I'm going to just get on a corner handle and get it to overlap and kind of line up. So now I'll select that piece, hold Shift and select this one, and then I'm going to use my Shape Builder tool, hold Option, and go over all the pieces I don't want. And so I'm left with this little piece, and I'm going to make that this darker red. Now we need to bring the other pieces back. So we can hit Option Command 3 or Alt Control 3 on a PC. Now this piece is in front, so I need to select my shadow and my petal and group them with Command G or Control G, and then bring them to the front with Shift Command right bracket or Shift Control right bracket. I'll zoom out to see what we've got. Alright, I'm liking this, but we need to fix the bottom. So I'm going to hit Z and zoom in down there and see what we can do. The first thing I'm going to do is select the whole thing, hold Option or Alt and just drag it off the artboard so that we can have these pieces in case we need them later. And now I'm going to select the bottom and I'm going to expand, Object, Expand Appearance. That expanded our width. If I hit Command Z or Control Z, you can see we just have the line down the middle. But after I expanded, I'm going to redo, it expanded all the way out to what we can see, except this line here, the stroke, did not expand. So we need to go back up to Object, Expand, and choose that. And now we can expand that stroke. So we'll say OK. So now everything has been expanded. I'm going to zoom in down here at the bottom. And I think the quickest way to fix this would be just to select the green colors, the lighter green, and create one shape from them. So I'm going to hit V and select this green, hold Shift and select the other two, and then come over here to Pathfinder and unite with this shape mode. And then we lost the detail here, so we'll want to send it back. Shift Command left bracket or Shift Control left bracket. And I'll zoom in down here and now we can easily fix this. I can hit P minus and get rid of that, and then select these two anchor points with the A tool, the direct selection, and click one and drag it up to be within the shape we want. I'll Command minus or Control minus to zoom out. Okay, so I think we're done with this one. I'm going to select all of it with my direct selection and group it with Command G or Control G. Alright, let's save our work with Command S or Control S. Alright, if you like this video and you want to see more videos like this, just hit the subscribe button and the little bell next to it and you'll be notified every time a new video comes out. Alright, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you!